International Radio Tours broadcasting program is designed to assist artists, writers, producers, musicians, published authors, and organizations promoting their work throughout the world. To learn more, visit online at internationalradiotours.org.
Welcome to International Radio Tours. This is your host, Rich-Gehlhausen. Today we're featuring author John Nuckel. John's a Wall Street insider who's witnessed the internal financial arena. He's authored a trilogy, actually a continuing book series, and he's won an award for his first book. John will be on an international radio book tour starting with today all the way through October 20th. John, welcome. Hello, John.
Hello.
John, welcome to the show.
Hi, Rich. How are you?
Doing good. And, John, you're in New York City. What's your weather like there today?
Well, the weather, I'm actually in as good a mood as I've been in quite a while, since the weather is wonderful. Spring's on the way. Summer's on the way, and my New York Mets are in first place for the first time in like 7 years. So I'm choosing to be happy about it. I'm not worrying about injuries or what may be down the road. I am happy now.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about writing and writing a trilogy. Actually, you've written a trilogy, but it's going to be a continuing book series. But let's talk about writing in general first. You grew up in New York. Were there things that happened in your childhood that may have inspired you to become a writer?
Yeah, I think, I grew up pretty much on the borderline between Long Island and Queens, and to be honest with you, it was, used to call it the welfare apartments, like that's where we lived. So I sort of grew up in sort of a rough neighborhood, and but what was interesting was there was 5 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment, but what was really good was there was always something going on. Like my mother in particular was a very creative person. And a little wacky too. Like she used to dress us up. When we were little kids, she would dress us up. She would say, "Today we're all going to be cowboys," and she'd dress us all in cowboy clothing, and we'd play cowboy games. And I just thought of something the other day, which was really funny, which tells you her sense of humor. She had us convinced that she was Miss Brooklyn when she was a kid. And here's what I like: her talent was tap dancing. So as kids would go, "Tap dance, Mommy," and she'd go, no, I'm retired. But so that's sort of the atmosphere. But there was always music playing, and we used to I think we used to just read voraciously. I mean, I would, as long as I can remember, I'd go through like a book every 2 weeks. So it was... we were packed in, we were close together, but there was a lot going on, man. It really was. It was really nice.
Well, your career was in the stock market, various aspects of financial industry. But when did you feel that suddenly realized? Was it like like one day you woke up and you decided I'm a writer? How did that come about?
Well, I was in the stock market, and I think what makes my writing different than a lot of the Wall Street or the financial thrillers is that I was actually, standing in the trading pit. So that scandal that you read about that happened, I was the guy who they were selling the stock to, or I was selling the stock to them, and I was ahead of them. But I was in the middle of all of it, so it wasn't like, I interviewed people. And for the most, another thing, like part of some of my stories, that there's a whole 9/11 aspect to it at the beginning of the story, and I was there. I was running down Broadway when the tower was coming down, with stuff flying over my head. So I was in the middle of it. And as far as taking that from writing is, these life experiences are things that really affected me, that being on the trading floor was such an impactful part of my life and such an interesting place to be. At that time, the people were so interesting and very varied backgrounds that I'd always been writing, but I never considered myself a writer.
What do you mean?
And then I just started putting my stories down on paper.
John, when you say that you've always been a writer, what do you mean by that?
I've always been the guy who people would come to write a toast, or if it was someone's 70th birthday, I would write a little thing that the wife would stand up and read. And I don't know exactly how I got that reputation. I think it started when I wrote an actual business presentation for a colleague for the opening of a national sales meeting. And it went over so well. So finally, my wife actually said to me, "Why don't you go take a class?" And I joined the New York Writers Studio. And what I did was I sort of snuck in. I snuck myself into the intermediate class, which is people that had already been published. And I was just a raw beginner. But what I found going through the assignments was, as we went around the table, I was no different than the other people. No one was weeping, but I fit right in with the rest of them. So that was a good transition for me and a good motivation for me to get going.
Well, you've been writing articles for Business Insider. Writing those articles, has that, in regards to the experience and so forth, did that help you in regards to writing your first novel, becoming a published author?
Yeah, well, a lot of what I do is based on, a lot of what I write is based on what is really happening in the world around me. A lot of my thoughts and ideas come from something I may have read in the Wall Street Journal that day, or someone I spoke to at a meeting, something I've heard. So the Business Insider articles, they're really, I guess, opinion pieces. They're not hardcore journalism, but like one of them I wrote about, it's called The Integrity of the Transaction, how Wall Street has lost this idea that, in other words, if you order something in a restaurant, you have a better pricing structure than if you're trying to sell stock in the stock market. And once you lose the integrity of what the price is, what the actual transaction is, then you've really lost everything. So that was one of the articles. But these things, I think about these things, and it comes through in my writing, I guess.
So you're writing about, to a great degree, you're writing about things that you already know about.
Absolutely. There's. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Not at all, John. I'd like the audience to get an idea. Like you've got a lot of different areas, part of your creative process, I guess, where how you or where you get your inspirations from. And we've talked about some of these things like music, dreams, and so forth. Let's talk about some of these things for the audience, John.
Yeah. Well, music is a very, very important part of what I do, and the idea of putting so much into one short little story, in three minutes. There's a beginning, a middle, and the end. I love that, and people keep asking about writing style and so forth, and I don't. I'm not professionally trained. I really don't know what my style is, but I think about it in musical terms, and I sort of, not that I make it up. I'm a daydreamer. I daydream about stories, and I sort of change it on the fly as I'm writing the novel. So what I'm hoping is that the reader is surprised by a turn of events or by a new character that just steps in, and that's because I was surprised when I was writing it, because I just thought of it. So I look at it as a recording of a live concert. It's not purely live and just free form, because it is edited and sort of cleaned up, but it's like a recording of a live concert. and I have a lot of dreams. I dream a lot about things that go into my novels. I'm pretty excited today because I had one of those dreams last night. And these are things that come to me, and I hope I have a little while to share it with you, because I just dreamed this last night, and maybe it's because I was anticipating this interview, but last night I dreamt that there was a young police officer, a New York City police officer, maybe 23 years old, maybe he's on the job 2 weeks, and he's assigned to go to Central Park. There's a dream, so it's a little weird, but it'll make sense eventually. But he's assigned to go to Central Park, and there was a big party, and his job was to break down the party, and he was doing a very meticulous task, like folding up a cloth or a tarp or something. And he was, why am I doing this? I was just thinking, and then a car pulls up, an undercover car pulls up, and there's a man there that says, "Come with me." And they take him into the Central Park Police Station, which is a very cool place if you ever see it. But then they start asking him about, and this is the part that it's probably because of the accompanying interview, but they ask him about, what does he think about this, what does he think about that, and then I wake up. Now this is how the process is. Now, so I wake up like at 5 in the morning because of this dream. Then I spend the next hour till the alarm goes off expanding upon that and thinking about how this could work in my next story. Is this cop a bad guy? Is he a good guy? Is he someone who they've known about him all along? Was he recruited into the police department for a reason, because they want him to be there and they know that he could be of use of them? And these type of and this really, that's how it works. So now the struggle is to find a way to fit that little scenario into my next book. And I'm already looking at the Central Park Police Station online, and I'm getting an architectural look at it, and it's the oldest police precinct in New York. It was made out of an old horse stable, so it's this interesting little building in the middle of a park that, who knows what's going on in there. But that's really the process, and I know it's not detailed and it's not a literary answer, but that's how it works, man.
Did you take notes while you were thinking about this at 5 o'clock in the morning when you woke up?
No. I sit there, and this goes back to the daydream. Now I'm daydreaming, or daydreaming. I dream it. I lie there. I went for a jog this morning. I thought about it, and to be honest, I'm so excited about this little idea that I sort of, like, when the phone rang for this interview, I'm like, oh, here we go, because I was looking online at the police station. So that's what happens. So
I should tell the audience that John's books are adult books, and they all have adult themes. But so we have something to look forward to based on the dream that you had this morning. At some point in the future, we'll have this in a book.
That's going in. I don't know where it's going in, and it could be in a different venue or something. But that idea, that's what happens. Sometimes you get an idea, or I get a line, or something that a character I think would say. And a lot of times I'll build a scene around that because I want to use that line so much.
John, do you always know at some point when you're writing the book or you start a book, do you know how the book is going to, what the plot is going to be through the book, what's going to happen to the characters, or do you kind of experience that as the reader does?
Yeah, I definitely experience it as the reader does. Like, really? I know you've